What if Satoru Gojo were in Demon Slayer? For sure the demons would be completely wiped out, but what really matters here is who Gojo would be able to save and what would change in the story. After all, many of our favorite characters died, such as Rengoku, Shinobu, Muichiro, Genya, among many others we couldn't even imagine. So what would change with Satoru Gojo's arrival in Demon Slayer? Would he be able to save all the beloved characters? Watch until the end to find out. But after all, how did Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer of today, end up in Demon Slayer? Before I tell you, leave your powerful like on the video, and legend has it that only those who are subscribed to the channel have Satoru Gojo's beauty. So if I were you, I would subscribe to this channel right now, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. On a special mission, Gojo was fighting against a new special grade curse that was able to use a powerful domain expansion. Underestimating the enemy once again, Gojo falls into a spell that teleports him to the world of Demon Slayer. He appears in front of Inosuke during his fight against the spider demon father. Inosuke gets caught, and before his head is crushed, Gojo helps him by quickly cutting off the demon's arm. He thinks he is in a domain where the curse imprisons other curses and humans, but he soon realizes it makes no sense, since he doesn't feel any cursed energy. Inosuke, as always, is super impressed by strong guys, and before the spider demon father can even touch Gojo, he completely repels the demon, crushing him entirely. Inosuke is left in shock, thinking Gojo could be a demon, and as we know, Gojo is very smart, and what he does is try to gather information about where he is. He asks Inosuke questions, but Inosuke simply doesn't know how to answer any of them. Tomioka passes by Gojo and Inosuke, heading toward Tanjiro. Gojo realizes that he is one of the strong and intelligent ones, so he decides to follow him. During Tanjiro's fight against Rui, in an attack where Rui could have shredded Tanjiro to pieces, Gojo saves him by repelling the spider demon's webs, until Tomioka delivers the final blow to Rui. Gojo realizes that there are no curses in this world, but rather creatures that could resemble one. At the Hashira meeting, all of Gojo's questions are answered, and he understands that to return to his world, he would need to find a demon capable of sending him back, whether through good or evil means. And the person who would have this information would be Muzan Kibutsuji, the king of demons. Boarding the Mugen train with Rengoku and the others, Gojo, thanks to his Six Eyes ability, notices Enmu and is able to repel his Kikijutsu. Thus, the demons used as distractions were only placed on the train to be handled by the flame Hashira, Kyojuro Rengoku. Heading toward Enmu, Gojo flies over the Mugen train and notices that Enmu has already fused with the train. So he uses his attraction ability to pull Enmu out, detaching him from the train, and finally throws him against the ground, applying massive pressure with his infinity, crushing every cell of Enmu and defeating the demon, until something causes the train to derail. And who caused this was none other than Akaza, the Upper Moon 3. Now, will Rengoku be able to survive against Akaza with Gojo's help? That's obvious. Gojo would certainly destroy Akaza, but how would he do it? Look, as Gojo arrives at the battle, he realizes that Akaza is extremely strong for Rengoku to handle alone, so he decides to show just how powerful he is. He fights Akaza hand to hand without using his infinity, using it only to block Akaza's long-distance Kikijutsu attacks. The battle would be so intense that Rengoku wouldn't even be able to participate, otherwise he would be getting in Gojo's way. In the middle of an exchange of blows, Gojo uses a black flash directly to Akaza's chest, throwing him far away. Akaza realizes that the real monster of this battle is none other than Satoru Gojo. He makes his proposal to Gojo, trying to convince him to become a demon, but Gojo mocks Akaza and says he doesn't need that to become strong and despises immortality. Akaza becomes furious, amplifies his Kikijutsu, and runs toward Gojo, launching relentless attacks against the sorcerer. As the sun was about to rise, Gojo toys with Akaza, mocking the demon. Finally, Akaza tries to flee, but all his efforts are useless against Satoru Gojo, who keeps Akaza on the battlefield until he is disintegrated by the sun. And here, Gojo managed to save Rengoku, the Donut Hashira. I mean, the Flame Hashira. But will he be able to save the others? The battle in the Infinity Castle is still yet to happen, and in that arc, we suffered irreplaceable losses, so keep watching to find out. Heading to the entertainment district, Gojo quickly locates Daki, and moving toward her with the other demon hunters, Uzui quickly decapitates her, causing Gyutaro to appear. But before he can poison our hunters, Gojo repels his poisons, and the hunters question why Daki is still alive, realizing they need to decapitate both demons at the same time, and an epic battle ensues. Gojo fights practically on both fronts against Gyutaro and Daki. As Daki's cutting sashes reach the place where Tengen is fighting Gyutaro, he repels them, while Gyutaro launches his poisons at Tengen and Tanjiro Tanjiro. Once again, Gojo manages to repel them, until Gojo decides to use one of his most powerful techniques. He pulls both demons into the same place, using once again the cursed technique lapse, that is, blue, and when the two demons are together, he fuses blue with red, creating the hollow purple, which he throws at the demons, completely disintegrating them, defeating the demon siblings Daki and Gyutaro, the Upper Moon 6. And thanks to this, Uzui would still remain in the corpse. After all, he did not face great dangers as he did in the original timeline, where he lost his arm, which made him question whether he should retire. Here, that doesn't happen, and Uzui remains in the Demon Slayer Corps. And notice that Tanjiro was not able to awaken his Demon Slayer mark against Gyutaro, which means the Demon Slayers might face many problems down the line, and we should remember that Tanjiro also did not break his sword, meaning he would not go to the Swordsmith village, and the same goes for Gojo. After all, why should he go? Gojo has techniques capable of facing demons without needing a Nichiren sword. Thus, Mitsuri and Tokito, without Tanjiro's help, would end up being killed by the Upper Moons who invaded the Swordsmith village. That's because it was only thanks to Tanjiro that both Slayers awakened their marks and were able to fight against the Upper Moons, especially Muichiro. And Mitsuri, even with the mark, barely managed to deal with Zohakuten, so imagine her having to deal with Zohakuten and at the same time having to decapitate Hantengo. It would be impossible. But since I know that, just like me, you're also curious to find out what would happen if Gojo went to the Swordsmith village, let's do the following. Let's say Uzui wanted somehow to reward Gojo for his help and tells him that in the Swordsmith village, Gojo could rest a bit in the miraculous hot springs that exist there. So Gojo heads there and meets Mitsuri, who would obviously already be in love with his beauty since the Hashira meeting, until one night the village is attacked by Gyutaro's demonic fish, and in his room, along with Muichiro, who was questioning his abilities, Hantengo appears, who is immediately decapitated by the Hashira, activating Hantengo's Kekijutsu, causing powerful clones to appear. And here, Gojo feels that the village needs his help. After all, Mitsuri had not yet arrived. So, realizing that Muichiro could handle Hantengo's clones very well, Gojo would head to the village to destroy Gyoko's demonic fish, eventually finding him in the forest. And you ask me, why wasn't Muichiro thrown away by Hantengo's clone? Well, after being thrown and while still flying back, Gojo uses his technique to pull Muichiro back into the room, telling him to be more careful next time. Then he proceeds to the village. And now in the fight against Gyoko, some very interesting things happen. First, Gyoko, despite all his attempts to hit Gojo, cannot do so. And since he is a demon who plays dirty, he soon tries to target the two blacksmiths who were there, until the spikes are repelled again by Gojo, and when using his technique of 10,000 sliding slime fish, Gojo simply sends a purple hollow against Gyoko's demonic fish. And despite Gyoko barely escaping thanks to his teleportation, he quickly activates his hybrid fish form, charging at Gojo, who plays with the demon, and in the end, finishes him off. You know how? By smashing him against the ground, a humiliating and detestable way for Gyoko to die. Realizing that someone had eliminated the demonic fish in the village, Gojo returns to Muichiro, who was facing serious problems against Zohakuten. I must remind you that Muichiro is extremely skilled and a prodigy. Certainly with Genya's help, Muichiro would be able to gain some ground and an advantage to decapitate all of Hantengo's clones, causing Zohakuten to appear. Despite going through serious trouble against the demon, he remains standing thanks to Mitsuri, who arrives to help him. But look here, Gojo flies over the location, removes his blindfold, and looks directly at Hantengo and his wooden dragons, shouting for the Hashira to stay back. You know what's coming, right? Exactly what you're thinking. Gojo prepares his purple hollow once again, and despite the wooden dragons trying to stop Gojo, they cannot touch him. Zohakuten tries everything to stop Gojo, launching his sonic screams, his powerful winds, and lightning that destroy much of the forest. But Gojo is still there, preparing a huge purple hollow. When he launches it, it simply sweeps Zohakuten and Hantengo, who was hidden from existence, simply annihilating the demon in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Muzan would be feeling tremendous anger and rage towards Satoru Gojo, but wanting to turn the sorcerer into a demon to join him and his army of demons, becoming practically invincible. So he decides to invade the Demon Slayer headquarters to make Gojo his strongest demon, eventually consuming him and taking his powers for himself. When he arrives, Muzan takes everyone to the Infinite Castle, and fortunately for the Demon Slayers, Tamayo catches him off guard, injecting her poison into Muzan, causing him to delay the effect of the poison and enter a cocoon. Meanwhile, the Demon Slayers fight the demons in the Infinite Castle. And I must say, I don't even need to say that, whether poisoned or not, Muzan would not stand a chance against Gojo. But the interesting thing about this situation is, will Gojo be able to save his new Hashira friends in this terrible Infinite Castle arc, where many deaths and invaluable losses occurred? After all, how would he deal with the situation? You see, Gojo will use his ace up your sleeve, or rather he will use his domain expansion for a period of 0.2 seconds, just like he did in the Shibuya arc, to minimize the deaths that would happen in front of the curses that appeared where he was. And during this brief period of time, with this fraction of a second, Gojo eliminated all the curses around him. But why would he only use 0.2 seconds of his domain expansion? You see, within the radius of his domain, his opponent will experience all types of stimuli and exhaustive information, completely paralyzing them and eventually causing them to die. Anyone within 0.2 seconds within the range and the time frame of the ability would be deactivated for almost 2 months. Anything beyond that would be fatal. Satoru estimates that, for an average person, this 0.2 second interval is approximately equal to half a year's worth of information that the brain processes. That's exactly why he would use 0.2 seconds. But would it be necessary? Certainly. At some point, no. After all, Gojo would realize that his allies are quite strong. However, they don't have the Hunter's Mark, precisely because they didn't train for it, and Tanjiro hasn't even awakened it yet. Therefore, dealing with opponents like Kokushibo and Duma will be a huge problem. But how did the story unfold? Well, upon entering the Infinite Castle, demons of all kinds began to appear, and the Demon Slayers, along with Hojo, defeated all of them, eventually facing their respective strongest opponents, the Upper Moons. In this situation, Gojo would be facing, alongside Shinobu, Tomioka, and Uzui Duma, the Upper Moon 2, and an epic battle start, with Duma using his strongest techniques against Gojo. After all, it was a worthy opponent. Despite Duma using his strongest technique, the Buddhist statues, Gojo would use his blue to gather them all and crush them, turning them into a huge ball of ice, throwing it at Duma, who splits it in half, and it goes straight for Satoru. He repels it away and mocks Duma. I must remind you that before Inosuke and Kanao arrived to provide reinforcements, Gojo, upon using his purple hollow against Duma, rapidly disintegrates him. And while a huge ball of energy passes through the rooms of the Infinite Castle, shaking the entire place, the Demon Slayers, while fighting Kokushibo, face serious difficulties. Tanjiro had already awakened his mark, followed by Gyomei, Sanemi, Muichiro, and Rengoku. The Demon Slayers fight to survive Kokushibo's ruthless attacks until Satoru Gojo arrives, who realizes that despite all his comrades' efforts, they wouldn't be able to deal with a monster like Kokushibo, and despite having defeated several of the demons alongside the Demon Slayers, these monsters keep appearing, which would result in great deaths. Therefore, Gojo would eventually use his domain expansion, entering the full radius of the Infinite Castle, and it's exactly 0.2 seconds that will make everything change. Gojo relentlessly moves at a surprising speed through the Infinite Castle, quickly cutting off all the heads of the demons with the Nichiren sword he took from Tanjiro, as he already knew that with his hands he could not in any way nullify the regeneration of the demons. Therefore, he annihilates all the demons in the Infinite Castle in the blink of an eye. Kokushibo and Makimi were not spared, only Muzan. After all, he was the only one who could have the answer for Gojo to return home, and in the end Gojo would be nearly exhausted, as a domain expansion like that would cost him a lot of energy, especially in terms of the distance radius. And facing Muzan as he exits his cocoon, he claps for Gojo, congratulating the sorcerer for his efforts, which are now useless because he will turn him into one of his most loyal demons. And Gojo, being Gojo, would mock and laugh at Muzan, and knowing Muzan, he would quickly launch a killing attack, but even then it would be useless. First, Gojo is still untouchable, and second, it would only take a simple repel to push Muzan away. Finally, questioning Muzan, he fears he cannot help him, and as we know, the Demon Slayers would at this moment be in a vegetative state due to his domain expansion, so the one who would have to deliver the final blow to Muzan would have to be the only and strongest sorcerer, the last fighter, Satoru Gojo, the one who uses his purple hollow to completely disintegrate Muzan, putting an end to his reign of terror. Months later, Gojo's students managed to reverse the curse's spell and bring their sensei back home, and with the Hashiras recovered. I must tell you that until then, there had been no deaths on the part of the Demon Slayers, but Lady Tamayo was consumed by Muzan as soon as she injected her poison into him. So, Gojo would indeed be able to make sure everyone survived this merciless journey against the demons. But tell me in the comments, which character do you want to see next in the world of Demon Slayer? If you enjoyed the video, then use your cursed energy to click the like button below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I've prepared this video here that I'm sure you'll like. Click here to watch.